we had this giant, you know, those big glass jars that you put water in, like, you know, the plastic tubs you put water in. But they're made out of glass. People usually store money in them, like quarters and change and stuff like that. We had one of those, and it was in that place, and there was other stuff in there, like a lot of like stolen property, like IDs, licenses, car keys, like foreign currency, weird things. And I said, hey, listen, man, like this shit needs to go to the trash. Get all this stuff into a bag and throw this stuff away. And I told him to do it. He grabbed the bag. She took it downstairs. We were in Mesa at this place on 8th Street in Dobson. I'm up on the, you know, he goes downstairs. I do my line while he's walking downstairs. And I'm up on the rail, and I hear, get on the ground, you piece of shit, cock-sucking motherfucker, before I blow your fucking brains out. Something like that, right? And I look down, and there's 3 white dudes in jeans and t-shirts with like AR-15s at my buddy's head. And he's on the ground like this with that giant, it was a pillowcase. We had put that glass tub, because it was broken, we had put it into a pillowcase with all that stuff we were going to throw away. It ended up becoming evidence, and those were cops. They were undercover cops who had apparently been watching us. So there was another white guy at the same time walking up the stairs, and he pointed at me and said, that's him. I ran around the backside. There's like a little hallway that's, you know, we're up on the 3rd story. This guy's behind me, and I jumped right off.
What's up, everybody? Big Hurt 916, getting down fresh out, and you tuned in to another interview. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm here with the homie Mike from Arizona, and man, this guy's got a unique story, and he's changed his life, and he's doing really good for himself right now. So I commend him on that. And so we're here getting his story, and I'm gonna let him tell you guys a little bit about how he grew up and where he's from. So Mike, tell the people a little bit about your background.
So I'm born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. Been here my whole life. I grew up, I had a good childhood. I had a really good childhood. You know, I had my mom, my dad. They were there for me. They're still there for me to this day. I've had a lot of support. I got my family. You know, I had everything as a kid, man. I had everything. My dad had a boat. My mom had horses. We had property. We'd go fishing or, you know, travel all over the place. So I had a good childhood. I had like the, I guess, you know, middle class TV childhood.
2-parent household, all that, yeah.
Yeah, and my parents, you know, they were great. They never, you know, I have 2 dads, and my stepdad and my real father, and you know, my stepdad's been my dad. I call him dad. He's been my dad for 25 years now, since I was just a little kid, and he really, he's actually probably like the major contributor to, you know, saving my life and helping me, him and my mom, of course, but saving my life and helping me turn my life around. You know, when I started getting into a little bit of trouble. As I got older, I started, you know, I think honestly, like I look back and I'm not embarrassed to say, I think I wanted to be cool. That's what it was. I wanted to be cool. My buddies were smoking weed, and at a young age, I started smoking weed, and I started selling weed. And it was easy to get. We'd, you know, buy a pound. We'd split it up and go sell it, make a little bit of money, buy some shoes, buy some whatever. You know, we're teenagers, buy whatever teenagers buy. And as I got older, it started turning into, you know, more serious stuff where we weren't just buying a pound of weed. We were, you know, buying larger quantities. We'd travel. You know, we live here in Arizona. I've been to Mexico many times in my life. I've done a lot of things down there and here that, you know, I can't really say on camera, but that's kind of what happened as a teenager. I think I just wanted to be cool, wanted to fit in, and I started selling weed, and I was actually really good at it. I'm a good salesman. I've always been
good mouthpiece.
Yeah, I've always been a good salesman, and so I started selling weed, started selling coke, larger quantities as I got older, and I think probably around the age of like 16 or 17, I started kind of becoming a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I knew some people who. I'm one of those people that if I do something, I do it all the way. If I do anything, like, I'm all the way. So when I decided that I wanted to go be an idiot in the streets, I decided to go be an idiot in the streets to the max, 100 miles an hour. And we got to the point where we were robbing drug dealers. That's what we would do. We would, you know, in the movies, you always see people do this, like kicking in doors. That's not what we did. We didn't kick in doors, and we might have done that one time. We didn't kick in doors. We would, catch people walking from their car to their front door, catch people walking from their front door to their car, and take them back inside, and tie them up and take their drugs, take their money, take whatever else there was. If they didn't give it up, we would make them give it up. So I was a pretty young teenager around this time. I'm probably around like 17, 18. My daughter was born when I was 18, and I loved her to death. It didn't change me. My mom, my dad. I didn't grow up from. My family aren't. I don't have any family that really is from that lifestyle. My mom is she was a trucker for like 25 years. She's a CDL. She owned a trucking company for Super 16s and cement mixers, gravel, and things like that. And my dad, my dad was a general manager of a construction company. My other dad owns a gym. So like my family, they're all straight edge people. You know what I mean? Like my mom don't even smoke weed. Like she looks down like that's the devil's grass to my mom. And I come from a family where we're, my white side of the family, we're rednecks. We drink, we hunt, we fish, we shoot guns. Like that's, we have horses and cows and chickens. That's kind of how I grew up. So, I went like an entirely different way. My family and everything I was taught as a young kid was this way. I didn't grow up in the projects. I'm not from the projects. I didn't grow up, in the hood, like gangbanging. That's not, and I don't know what happened. When I was a young kid, my mom and dad and my family, everybody's going this way, and I went fucking this way, And my family told me, my brother told me one night, my little brother, he sat outside with me after we had actually robbed somebody for like a giant bale of weed. And he was sitting outside with me. My daughter was, I think, inside this apartment where we were with my daughter's mom, with her mother. And my little brother was just like crying. He's like, dude, you're going to go to prison. So, I had conversations with my brother. I had conversations with, friends who had all essentially told me the same thing. Like, you're going to go to prison or something bad is going to happen to you. And then a few months before I actually ended up going to prison, a very, very close friend of mine, he's still a friend of mine to this day, and in fact, I just talked to him yesterday. He got shot in the stomach with a 22 pistol, and we didn't know we got shot was the crazy thing. Like I kind of thought, I remember it vividly. I could tell you like every detail about the night, but I remember telling him like, you're tripping, bro. You didn't get shot. We heard a gunshot. I'm like, you did not get shot. We're in the car. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I tore his shirt off. I'm like searching his body for a hole. There's no hole. There's no hole. And finally, we're shooting on the way to the hospital. My other buddy's driving, and me and him are in the back seat. I'm looking in this guy's body for this hole. There's no hole. It's just a little tiny red dot. That's all it was. And I look at it, and I think I might have touched it. And he's like, that's it. Like he told me, he's like, I'm losing feeling to my. I'm like, bro. I said, stop acting like a bitch, bro. You're not even bleeding. And that's, me being a teenager, not knowing anything, that 22s are very dangerous rounds because when they go in, it hit him in his stomach and it came out the other side of his stomach. But I think it had hit his liver and it had hit his spleen and like his kidney or something like that. We got him to the hospital pretty fast. He was at the hospital in 8 minutes. And while we were on the way to the hospital, I had to call his mom, and his mother and his sister are kind of like family to me as well. They're kind of like my mom and kind of like my sister, and I was always with them when I was younger. And so that was a really hard thing because I was kind of like the older brother in the situation where I got him into this trouble, and I'm calling his mom like, hey, your son just got shot. He's in my arms. We're going to the hospital. He's okay. And like I remember her voice. I remember listening to her, and he ended up going to prison for 9 years for something else, and I did my 7 years, and we got together after. I think last year we started getting back together, and I actually just saw his mom and sister about a month ago for the first time in all these years. And it was kind of, shocking to talk to them and see them again. But, they treated me just like family, like they always had. And they met my wife, and we hung out with them on the holiday that just passed, Easter.
Okay.
We were with them on Easter at their house on Easter. And but either way, back to the point where I was headed down that path, and a lot of people were trying to steer me out of it. And I think in my head, I thought I wasn't going to get caught. I got a story for you. That's Yeah, I forgot about this one. So this happened this happened a week after he got shot. They started looking for us. We had 2 apartments. We used to have this apartment that we used for illegal stuff. You know what I mean? There's stuff in there that, shouldn't have been in there, drugs. Actually, I can say because they found it. It got raided. And I have, so we had an apartment that was full of guns, and we had about 30, 40 guns in there. We had like lots of stolen stuff, like laptops, computers, TV screens, drugs, like a large amount of cocaine and a large amount of weed. And one morning, I went over to this apartment, and it was ours, but we didn't live there. We used it for whatever we were using it for at the time. And I was with another buddy of mine, and we went to the apartment. I think we were picking something up. It's pretty early in the morning. At the time, I was doing drugs. I did cocaine when I was younger. That was my drug of choice as a teenager. And I did a line of coke, a pretty big line, about this big. I used to do a lot of coke when I was a kid. I could do an 8-ball by myself usually within a couple hours. I did a big line of coke. It was about 9:30 in the morning, and my buddy, we had this giant, those big glass jars that you put water in, like the plastic tubs you put water in, but they're made out of glass. People usually store money in them, like quarters and change and stuff like that. We had one of those, and it was in that place, and there was other stuff in there, like a lot of like stolen property, like IDs, licenses, car keys, like foreign currency, weird things. And I said, hey, listen, man, like this shit needs to go to the trash. Get all this stuff into a bag and throw this stuff away. And I told him to do it. He grabbed the bag. She took it downstairs. We were in Mesa at this place on 8th Street in Dobson is where it's at in Mesa. And it's a 3-story, they're like the budget suites. It's what they are. They're very known for drug activity. And I'm up on he goes downstairs. I do my line while he's walking downstairs. And I'm up on the rail, and I hear, get on the ground, you piece of shit, cock-sucking motherfucker, before I blow your fucking brains out. Something like that, right? And I look down, and there's 3 white dudes in jeans and T-shirts with like AR-15s at my buddy's head. And he's on the ground like this with that giant, it was a pillowcase. We had put that glass tub, because it was broken, we had put it into a pillowcase with all that stuff we were going to throw away. It ended up becoming evidence, and those were cops. They were undercover cops who had apparently been watching us. So there was another white guy at the same time walking up the stairs, and he pointed at me and said, that's him. I ran through, I left everything. I have OCD about things in my pocket. I never have anything in my pocket. I never have my phone. I never have anything in my pocket. So I left all my stuff inside this little apartment when I got there, and I'd done my little line. I was smoking a cigarette when I'd come outside, and I ran around the backside. There's like a little hallway that's, we're up on the 3rd story. This guy's behind me, and I jumped right off. And there were people in the pool. It was summer. This was, I can tell you exactly when it was. It was May 26th of 2009. It was the day before I turned 20 years old. And I jumped off this 3-story balcony, and I landed in an oleander bush. And there were people swimming in the pool. It was summertime. And I think they thought I was trying to kill myself. They screamed. They said, ah! Like, I just heard screaming. And then I kept running. My little brother lived across the street. He had an apartment. I got over there. I got into his apartment, and I changed into his clothes, and I'm still pretty jacked up. Like, when I say I used to party as a teenager, I did a lot of cocaine. So when I say I did a line, like I did a big line. Like this thing had me jacked up for like 30, 40 minutes. And I go into his apartment. He has like some vodka in his freezer. I grab a bottle of vodka, and I just take a huge swig, and I'm like freaking out. His girlfriend, who is actually still a friend of ours to this day, was there. And her boyfriend was there. When I say my brother's gay, so his girlfriend is like a friend of his. And her boyfriend, they were there like hanging out on the couch. And I just ran and boom, I broke in the door. And I closed the door. And they're like, what the heck? And like, I know her. So she's like, what's going on, Michael? And I'm like, the cops. We just got raided. Give me your phone. I need your phone. So I took her phone. I called my baby mom. And my baby mom is Native American. She's from the Indian Reservation. At the time, she was working on the Indian Reservation. I called her and said, hey, they just raided the spot. It was the dope spot. They said they raided the spot. I'm at my little brother's apartment. Come get me now. And she said, okay, I'm on the way. She left her job. She headed up to start come getting me. My brother's girlfriend and her boyfriend that were there, they're freaking out now because like I probably look insane. I'm all jacked up. I just jumped off a 3-story balcony. They leave. Like they literally just leave. And they're like they let me use their phone, and I didn't have my phone. So they leave. And now I'm in my brother's apartment alone. My little brother's at work. I have no phone. And my baby mom is on the reservation, which is like an hour away. Unfortunately, like my blood is like pounding and the coke is still in my system and time is not working right. So it's probably been 10, 15 minutes. There's helicopters in the sky. There's cops. I looked out the window. There's cops with dogs. There's guys in plain clothes walking around with their hands on their hip where their guns are, and they're everywhere. I can see them like everywhere. There's probably 30 or 40 of them. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, it's been an hour. It's been 2 hours. Where the fuck is my baby mom?
10 minutes.
It's been like 15 minutes. So I switch into my brother's clothes. I put a hat on. I put like some sunglasses on. And I super casual. His apartment complex is right next to the apartment complex where the raid happened. So the cops are kind of already over in this area. They think I might have run towards this area. I walk out super casual, and I'm looking around. I think I'm standing by the pool, and I think I like took one of my brother's cigarettes or something. And a white guy walks up to me, and he looks at me. He's probably about maybe 8, 10 yards away, and he looks at me, and he says, "You better not run." And I'm fast. I'm very fast. I've always been very fast. I ran. There was a fence. I can show you exactly where it is to this day. It's on 8th Street and Emelita and Dobson, just north of 8th Street. There's a fence, and I grabbed it. And it had spikes at the top. It's a metal fence with bars. I grabbed it, and I threw myself over it. And he tased me, and I heard it. It hit me right here. I used to have the scars until I got my sleeves done. You can't see them anymore. But both prongs hit me right here, and then I fell over the other side of the fence. When I fell over the other side of the fence, one of the prongs came out, and I think I just grabbed the other one and yanked it out. The problem was the metal hit me in the fence caught me in my stomach, and when I fell off, it opened me up, like all the way down to here. So then, but he's on the other side of this fence now trying to reload this taser. He ain't coming over this fence. Like, I'm young, I can jump fences, like I'm fast. This is a tall fence. He's trying to reload his taser so he can get me again. I run into another apartment complex. Good Lord, statute of limitations. I broke into somebody's apartment. This was about 12 years ago, and I hid in their apartment for 6 hours, and I changed into their clothes. I waited till the sun went down. I took groceries, and I put them in bags, and I swear to God on everything that I love, my dogs. I put that on my dogs, and everybody knows my dogs are my babies. I walked out of this apartment at 8:30 at night. They had rolls of quarters. That house, that apartment I'd broken into, another apartment complex I'd broken into, they had a roll of quarters. Like, I took that and took some groceries and put it in bags and changed into their clothes again. I walked out of there. They came home, so I had to leave now. They came home. I walked out of the back gate, and there was a cop about 30 yards away, and he shined his flashlight at me, and I just kind of looked at him, and I kept walking with my groceries in my hand. And I walked to the street. I got out to Dobson Road, which runs north-south. I looked to the north. There's a cop at the entrance to that apartment complex. I looked to the south. There's a cop car at the entrance to that apartment complex. The helicopters had left by now. I can either go right or left because I'm facing a major road. I'm not at the crosswalk, and there's a cop to my right and there's a cop to my left. So I said, "Fuck, I'm just gonna jaywalk." So I jaywalked across the street. They didn't even look at me. I got across the street. I got into another apartment complex. This area right here, if anybody's from Arizona, if they know Mesa on 8th Street and Dobson, it's over by MCC, by the hospital, by Banner Desert. There's a lot of apartment complexes. When you drive by, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll see the budget suites. That's where it happened. And I walked across the street to another apartment complex, and I saw a brother outside. I said, "Hey, man, I got $10 in quarters." No, I think I had like $20 in quarters. I'll give you $20 in these quarters. Let me make a phone call and give me the rest of your cigarettes. And he said, "Okay, bet." Back then, cigarettes were like $5 a pack, so he got a good deal. I gave him $20. He gave me his smokes, and I called this girl. She was an ex-girlfriend of mine, and she was closer than my baby mom was. I didn't know where my baby mom was at the time, so I called this girl. This girl came and picked me up, and she drove me back to the reservation, and she took me back to my baby mom. And my baby mom was like hysterical because my baby mom got up there. She drove up there, but I had already left by then. So she's up there. There's helicopters. There's fucking 50, 60 cops out there. There's dogs out there. And she's like, "Michael, I thought you got caught." She's like, "How the fuck did you get back here?" And I don't know. So the next day was my birthday, and I laid in bed all day on my fucking birthday. I couldn't move because my stomach was all fucked up. I had got tased, and I jumped off a 3-story balcony. Swear to God. And I didn't move on my birthday, my 20th birthday. The day after my 20th birthday, my baby mom, her sister is a probation officer to this day. And her sister and I are very close. Her sister's like my big sister now too. And when this happened, I was very upset. But they sent out wanted posters in my face that said I was wanted for armed robbery, kidnapping, aggravated assault, all extortion. They said we had bodily harm to a hostage. Like, it looked pretty rough. And the cop actually showed me the paper later on. But they sent that wanted poster to the reservation because the cops kind of had a little file on me already, and they knew I had family on the reservation, my baby mom. My baby mom's sister's a probation officer. She's a more mature woman, and this young fucking idiot kid is dating her little sister, and now this paper comes across about this little kid. She did the right thing. She called the cops. So I'm laying at my baby mom's house, holding my stomach. I can't move. My baby mom went to town to get me a cake for my birthday, and I'm alone with my daughter. Me and my daughter are sitting in the bed. I think I was watching TV. I couldn't move much, and I hear it outside. I hear a loudspeaker that says, "Michael Bryant, we know you're inside the house. We do not want to kick the door in. We know your daughter's in there." Oh, well, actually, hold on. Let me reverse about 5 minutes. I got a phone call from my baby mom's sister that said, "Michael, what are you doing at my mom's house?" And I said, "I'm hanging out for a couple days." She said, "Okay." She said, "Who's with you?" I said, "Just me and Yanni, my daughter." She said, "Okay." And she said, "I'll talk to you later." She hung up the phone. Then the bullhorn comes across. She called the cops. She told them where I was. And the cops over the bullhorn say, "Michael, we know you're in there with your daughter. We don't want to kick the fucking door open when you have a little..." My daughter was like maybe 11, 12 months old. She was just an infant. And so they called the phone. And I said, "Hello, this is Michael, and this is Sergeant da-da-da." I said, "Listen," I said, "I'm not going to come out and give my daughter to the police." I said, they said, "Your daughter's Aunt Carolyn is here with us. Give it to her." I said, "Okay, I'm going to open the door. I'm not armed. I'm going to open the door." I opened the door. I set my daughter on the living room floor. The cops took my daughter. They gave it to my daughter's aunt, the sister Carolyn, the probation officer. She took my daughter. The cops actually put me in cuffs, sat me on the side of the house until my baby mom returned from getting my cake. My baby mom pulled up with a big cake, crying, tears in her eyes. And they showed me the little paper, what I was wanted for. And then when I got to the police department where they took me, the cop told me, he said, "The only reason you got away was because my taser hit you wrong. It was supposed to separate." He said, "One needle hit you here, one hit you here, so the current can circulate. They both hit you too close. There was no current." He said, "That's the only reason you got away." But he told me, he said, "You're a fast motherfucker." That's what he told me, like kind of joking about it and shit. And I'm all jacked up. Like I can barely move and shit. Like I was pretty fucked up. While it was happening, I was, high, so it was different. Once I come down and I'm sober, I could barely.
Body was beat up.
I could barely move. Yeah, I could barely move. And that was the day. And I always remember too. I remember saying like, I want to do something crazy before I turn 20. like my teenage years, my final teenage, go out with a bang. And that's not what I was intending, but that's how it happened.
If you're fed up with paying cable companies and streaming apps too much money every month, then Vault TV is the solution you've been waiting for. Watch up to 100,000 movies on demand, up to 5,000 TV shows with over 120,000 episodes. Visit us at vaulttv.com.
So once you got to prison, man, and you seen that, man, I'm gonna have to go do this time, what changed your focus, man, on realizing that, man, this is like the game over?
So I did a year in county first before I went to prison. And county sucked. I got in a bunch of fights in county. I was always getting in fights. It's, you're a kid, you're learning. And that probably helped me learn, like, this place sucks. There's nothing fun about this place. County is really miserable here because you don't go outside. You don't have no sunlight. You get pale. I get so pale, I look like a vampire because you don't have no sunlight for literally months between court dates. You go to court, the judge says absolutely nothing. You go back to your pod and you sit there for another 3 months. Then you go to court and do it again until you sign your plea agreement. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget either. My baby mom, she had money she's a Native American, and she had gotten some money from the tribe, and she used it for my attorney. That's the only reason I got 7 years in prison. If not, I would have gotten 12 years because I got charged with some pretty heavy stuff. I had about 32 felonies, and the majority of them were F2s, which are your like heaviest felony next to murder. But she bought me an attorney. I think he was a JAG lawyer. He said he was a lawyer for the Marine Corps, and then he switched over to doing criminal defense. And I was like his first case, and he did a good job. Instead of doing 12 years, it was the prosecutor had offered me 12 flat. You get 12 flat. Or when I got the attorney, he came back and said, "I know this prosecutor, give me a couple days, 7 years with 5 years probation." I said, "All right, let's go." First time offense, 7 years, 5. That's a long time in here. Usually out here you get 1 or 2 years, but it taught me what I needed to learn. So anyways, when I got to prison after a year in county, prison's a scary place when you're young and you don't really know how it works. Once you know how it works, it's easy. Prison's a very easy place to navigate because it's just very simple rules. Don't get in debt if you can't pay it. Don't do drugs and you'll be fine. Like that's it. But when you're young and you're learning it takes a little while for you to see those patterns and understand like, hey, if I don't want to get my fucking head kicked in, don't do this. But my dad, my stepdad, he sent me a book. I think the first book he sent me was Winston Churchill's autobiographies from. It was 6 books. It was a 6-part autobiography from World War II, and it was a really cool book. I didn't have a lot to do. This was a higher level yard. We're locked down all the time, and I would just read. I read about Winston Churchill. I think that was the first book he sent me. And Winston Churchill was, the Prime Minister of England, and, or the United Kingdom during World War II. And the books kind of focus on like the negotiation process of World War II and him meeting with Hitler and telling Hitler to like calm down before. So the books were kind of cool. Then he sent me Benjamin Franklin. He sent me Albert Einstein, Robert Oppenheimer, and that's when I fell in love with physics. I started studying physics. I would just knock out physics books. I started studying Spanish. Studied Spanish for probably 5 years straight, 3 hours a day. Probably 5,000-6,000 hours into Spanish, and then I did the same thing with Arabic. I probably put about 8,000 hours into Arabic and Farsi, into reading it, writing it, speaking it fluently. I had a passion for languages. I love languages. To this day, I speak Spanish regularly. I'm not Mexican. I have no Mexicans in my family. I have no Arabs in my family. I enjoy languages. I enjoy learning. History. Genghis Khan's probably that book was probably the major influencer on my life. It showed me that one person can actually change the entire course of humanity. That's what Genghis Khan did. He's probably more influential on the course of human history more than anybody, with the exception of Jesus or Muhammad.
Well, people just like the story of him marching on elephants, man. That's like nobody thought he would get over there through the mountains. Like, there's no way he's gonna take elephants through the mountains.
Yeah,
dude, who does that?
Yeah. Well, Genghis Khan's story. The problem is a lot of people think Genghis Khan was a savage. He wasn't. Genghis Khan was a leader. He had the first empire where Muslims and Jews and Christians could pray side by side. Okay? He abolished slavery in his empire. He built the first postal networks like in the world. Like he established the Silk Route. Not only did he do that, he took scientists from the Middle East, scientists from Europe, and scientists from Africa and mixed them all up. And then he started, that is essentially what started the Renaissance, which was before the Information Age, the last 120 years, that was the greatest period of human learning ever, was the Renaissance. And Genghis Khan was like a major contributor to that. He built more bridges than like any other man in history. In reading his book, I don't know what it was about that, it just was something that caught me. I don't know, it ignited something.
So let me ask you something, because I tell people this all the time, and I feel that the more enlightened I became on just information and knowledge, the more conscious you become. Therefore, you look at the world different. You know what I mean? You don't entertain, like, when you hear stupid shit, you're like, man, that's some stupid ass shit. For real, because it's like, now you are aware of like worldly people or history, and therefore you realize value in things. And so things that are very low level doesn't entertain you anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Prison's a place full of like nonsense. So like you kind of learn when you're in there to like filter shit out. Prison's like I've always told people ask me what prison's like. Prison is like recess, just nothing but boys. It's just a big fucking recess yard.
Daycare, big
daycare.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And the majority of the people there are, very childish. Like, and that's, a big factor in why so many people are in and out of prison, is because the maturity levels in young men but it's just nonsense daily. And you see some things that are so ridiculous, or you hear some things that are so ridiculous that after a certain point in time, like, you almost can't believe it anymore. Like, you just stop paying attention to it. You just filter it out. You know what I mean? And then at the same point in time, you do realize every now and then, like, hey, holy shit, I'm in prison. I do that to this day. I close my eyes every now and then, and I open my eyes and be like, I try to remember the feeling of having my eyes closed in there and imagining what it's like, so I can remember, like, hey, this is a lot.
Yeah, another world.
Yes, it's a lot different,
man.
A lot better.
Well, it sounds like you really took the time while you were in prison to do some positive things with your mindset to kind of change your path. As far as, as you got closer, what did you do to kind of prepare yourself for the transition to the streets? I know you said you did, you had a pretty good little hustle going on. And
so, for anybody who is in prison, the number one thing that I always taught this to young people too. Young people would get Like a young brother would get to the yard. He's 19. By the time I'd been in there, I was like 25 years old. People were calling me OG in prison. I swear to God. These kids would come in because I'd been in there for a long time. But these young kids would come to me because the head would be like, hey, go talk to Mike if you don't want to get in trouble. He's going to tell you some basic things to follow. I would tell young people, fortify your mind. Nothing matters. It doesn't matter how much money you come home with. It doesn't matter. Even the support structure you come home with. Fortify your mind. That is the number one. People do not understand what this is. You know, me and my wife were just talking this last night. This is the most powerful machine in the universe known to man, with the exception of God's mind. There's nothing like this, and we all have one. There's no bomb on the planet that has any comparison of power to one mind. And that's what I did. I fortified my mind. Nothing can. I choose what I want to do. If I can speak whatever I want into existence. I told everybody. I said. When I get out of prison, I'm not going to do these things. And I didn't do certain things. Like some I don't want to actually say because they were related to people. But I said I'm not going to go back to these old relationships. I'm not going to go back to this. I'm not going to go back to that. I didn't. There was no temptation because my mind was already set. You set your own mind. You make your own mind. You decide what you're going to do, then you do it. End of story. If young people could truly understand how powerful this is.
Your mind is, yeah.
If they could get this under control, you take over the world. You know, but it's not just a problem with people in prison. That's a problem in general. People don't understand how strong their minds are. And that's what it was for me, fortifying my mind constantly. Reading and studying and learning things, that was fun. I liked feeding my mind, but that wasn't the fortification. The fortification is understanding that anything I decide I want, I can have. If my wife is in love with Jeeps, that's all she cares about, Jeeps. She's been wanting a Jeep her whole life. She said, you know what, I'm going to go get my wife a Jeep. If I want it, I'll go get it for her. I'll figure out a way to get whatever I want. And I do that, and that's what I did when I was in prison. I said, hey, I'm going to do this, and I did that. And believing it is the true power of your mind. You have to truly, truly believe that you can think these things into existence, and you will. I've seen it. I witnessed it many, many times. And in fact, on my 25th birthday, I was on Santa Rita. It was a 3-yard. It was this was after the riot had happened, so I was in a 3-yard. This is like we're in cells. We're not in dorms anymore. We're in cells. And on my 25th birthday, I remember I said, hey, I'm gonna make this big change for the next couple months and like just really focus on my studies. I took I think I said no more poker for like 6 months, no more smoking cigarettes. I was smoking cigarettes at the time. I said no more cussing, more daily Bible study, more getting into and I made this list. I made this list of like all these positive changes. I'm gonna just do it overnight, like tomorrow. And I did. My cellie was laughing at me, and I did it though. Overnight I stopped cussing, I stopped smoking cigarettes, I stopped playing poker for like 6 straight months, and these crazy changes like just happened like fast, like things that I wasn't supposed to be able to go back to minimum. My points were too high. I had like 44 points, and I'm on a 3-yard, and my CO3, who is like your counselor, who like kind of helps you with like your point structure system, he had said like you're not going back to minimum. You're gonna finish your sentence out here. I think I had like 16, 17 months left. He said you're staying here, and I don't know if it was God. I don't know if I thought into existence. I don't know. I just got really lucky. But all of these crazy positive things, like my mom came and visited me for a food visit, which she hadn't made one in a while. My dad came, and then I got moved to a minimum yard, and the food visit for that yard was a week later. So my dad came and visited me for a food visit. I ended up getting like this textbook that I'd been wanting for like months and many months, and I ended up getting that. Oh, and then I got back to the minimum yard. The day I got back, I walked back to the telemarketing office. My good friend. My very close friend, who's like a brother to me, he's going back for life right now. He was working there. He ran the telemarketing room. And I said, hey, I just got back. He's like, Mike, hey, you're back. You're back at minimum. You gave him a hug. I said, I need my job back. I didn't have my shoes on because when you get transferred, they keep your property. You're in like flip flops. They keep all your property separate so they can go through it and then bring it to the yard a couple days later. I walked in there, and the owner of the company wasn't in the call center at the time. I walked into the call center. My buddy said, hey, what do I got to do to get my job back? He said, I'll call him. He called the owner. I talked to the owner. I said, hey, I'm back. He said, all right, you got your job back. He said, I'll get you in. Like, he fast-tracked me. Usually you have to go through an entire process to get like the application. They have to check, all these things to get you this kind of job. He called the owner of the company, got me back in. I had my job within like 4 days. And I had come from like a place where I was like, damn, I'm going to do my last 18 months in prison on this 3-yard, which I was cool with. That was my favorite yard I was ever on anyways. And I'm going to just finish out my time here. I'm going to do these things, study, read, and go home. And I made these changes on my 25th birthday, and like within 2 weeks, everything changed. It was insane. And I told my wife that. I've always told my wife, I said, one day, a long time ago, I made like all these crazy changes in my life, just miracles. Like it was miracles, like things that shouldn't have happened. I wasn't supposed to be able to even go back to minimum. My points were too high.
But you changed your energy focus.
Something happened.
Yeah.
I don't. It was insane. Yeah, I changed my energy, and I fortified my mind. And I told myself, I said, when I get home, I told people, man, I used to have my buddy lived in the dorm next to me when I was back on minimum. He used to make jokes and laugh and stuff. And I told him, I said, bro, I'll never take no job for $15 an hour. People talking about, oh, you can't get a job. And I said, I'll never fucking work for $15 an hour. You guys are fucking crazy. I'm not working for I was there selling on the phone. I said, I told her, I said, I'll only do one of two things. I'm either going to do sales or I'm going to own my own company. I'll never go work a job for $15 an hour. I got released on a Friday. I started work Monday morning. I came home with 10 grand. I didn't have to go to work. My mom begged me to come home because I had 10 grand. I was like, I don't want to move out here to the boonies with you. I want to move back to the city and, where there's things happening in the city where I can work, where I can have all these opportunities. But she wanted me to come home because I'm her baby, so she wanted me back at home with her. So I did. I came home with my mom and I told her, I'm only staying with you 6 months. And I gave my mom my first 6 months home. And then my wife and I were already dating by that time. We moved in together after that. And ever since then, everything if I ever want something, I get it. I've had obstacles. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's been easy. But if I want something, I get it. Point blank. I started my company. I said I want to get a dealer's license. Me and my mom sat there and figured it out for months. See, I'm not supposed, getting a dealer's license for a felon. You can't do it. And there's ways. Figured it out. I want to start my own company. I want to own my own company. I want to have employees. I want to have salespeople. I want to have the biggest. Our company was the biggest signage company in Arizona for a year before COVID hit. You know what I mean? And COVID took a little bit of the wind out of my sails. That taught me a lot. I've learned a lot since COVID, but. For the most part, fortify your mind. That's the trick. You have anything you want, fortify it. It's a machine. It's a tank. It's a fucking B-2 bomber with 1 million fucking nuclear kilotons in it. Okay, it's a machine that is not matched by anything else in the universe that we know of. Okay, this is it. It's all it takes. I studied some certain things too, like James Allen. I don't know if you're familiar. Like James Allen, he wrote As a Man Thinketh, 18th century, that kind of philosopher. Napoleon Hill. I'm sure you've run across Napoleon Hill, stuff like that.
Yeah, I always tell people I read Neil Donald Scott Walsh. He had a series called Conversations with God.
I've heard of the series. Yeah. I've heard the name.
I've read it like numerous times, and like I have like almost an epiphany in prison. Like it's like an awakening. Like what I mean. It's like wow, and like you said, your mind, man. And I tell guys all the time, like you said, coming out with a bunch of whatever money, whatever you have, if your mind's not right, everything else is not going to be in alignment.
Exactly.
So if your mind is right, that's the key, man. So, it's great to hear how you were able to fortify your mind and put things into perspective so that everything else that followed that resulted in your success. Looking back now, and if you could tell a young viewer, something, or a younger version of Mike, what would you tell them?
I would have told him that, fortify your mind. Like that would really be it. Like work on your mind. This is it, Or the other big thing is time. Like there's nothing, money doesn't matter. There's no such thing. Money doesn't matter. It's invisible. It doesn't matter. Pretend it doesn't exist. Time is the only thing that matters. And I taught myself when I was in prison, do not trade your time for money ever. And since the day I got released from prison, I haven't. And I made more money than I need to, than I'm able to do the things I want to do. If my wife and I want to go buy a new car, we can go buy a new car. If we want to go, we got a boat. If we want to go to the lake and ride around on the boat, we can go to the lake and ride around on the boat. If we want to go out to the river and ride around in our Jeep or in the quads or whatever, we can do whatever we want to do. Money is not anything. As soon as you realize that, you're never able to make money if you value it. If you value money, you can't make money.
You got to value the time.
You got to value time. Rich people are very different from poor people in that poor people value money. Wealthy people value time. People say, I would never work a job. I'll never work a job. I don't care if you pay me $100 an hour because my time is worth more than $100 an hour. My time is worth more than $1,000 an hour. I do what makes me happy. I do what makes me smile. I like to do things that, make my family happy. My wife and I like restoring old cars together. We just got, that Jeep for her. We're about to redo the whole thing. My mom and I are rebuilding an old Volkswagen hippie bus right now. We're in the process of restoring the hippie bus right now. I actually broke it the other day pretty bad. But things that make me smile, like, spending time with my dog, spending time with my kids, spending time with my family. That's stuff that, when you're on your last day, no matter how much money you got in the bank.
That's right.
If Warren Buffett's on his last day, he'll empty his bank account to buy one more day.
Exactly.
He'll empty all of it to buy. Warren Buffett would give all his money to me to trade places with me because he knows I've got time. And I value my time. I love my time. I love my kids' time. I love watching them enjoy their time. I love watching them value their time. That's a big problem. I think a lot of young people don't value time.
Hey man, well it's great to hear your perspective and how you were able to turn that negative into a positive, and kind of take a whole turn for the better in your life. Because a lot of people, like you said, man, you got a friend you were good friends with, and now he's gonna go do life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if you're watching this, pay attention and listen, man. This, it's a perfect example, and I try to always have people on here who have done something that you guys can take and reflect on. So, Mike, man, I really appreciate
Yeah,
man,
man,
the
I appreciate it.
opportunity.
It's an honor. I've been a big fan too, by the way. I reached out to you because I watched a lot of your stuff, man. My wife's watched it. I love your show, and I said, man, I'm going to just send him an email one day. I'm going to drive to Cali and meet him.
Hey, well, now I'm in AZ, man.
Yeah, now you're here.
It worked out for the best. So, hey, man, persistence pays,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it, man. Hey, Big Herc 916 and Mike, man, getting down with another dope interview.